Imagine setting out to build something truly monumental. Not just big, but precious, detailed, uniquely crafted for just one specific, profound purpose.
It's a level of commitment that's almost hard to imagine today, isn't it? With modern construction, efficiency is usually key. This feels different, driven by something else entirely.
It really does. And that commitment, that incredible detail, that's exactly what we're exploring in this deep dive. We're digging into the descriptions in 1 Kings chapter 6.
Right, the chapter detailing King Solomon's temple.
Exactly. We want to really get a feel for the architecture, the materials, the unique way it was built, and what the text says its purpose was, using the source itself as our guide.
And it's amazing how much detail that source gives us. It's not vague. We get actual measurements, methods. It paints a surprisingly clear picture.
Okay, so let's start there. The blueprint, you could say. The basic size and layout. What does 1 Kings tell us about the main building's dimensions?
It lays them out very clearly. The main temple house was 60 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high.
60 by 20 by 30. Now, a cubit, remind us roughly what that is.
Well, it's an old unit based on the forearm, elbow to fingertip, usually estimated around 18 inches, maybe a bit more. So you're looking at something like 90 feet long, 30 feet wide, and 45 feet high, roughly.
Okay, substantial, definitely. Not a small chapel. And there's a section at the front.
Yes, a portico, or ulam. It stretched across the 20-cubit width of the temple and projected outwards 10 cubits.
So like an entrance porch adding another 10 cubits to the length.
Exactly.
Got it. Main rectangle, front porch. But it wasn't just that simple shape, was it? The text mentions something built around the main walls.
Yes, this is fascinating architecturally. A structure containing side rooms, built against the walls of the main hall, the hekal, and the inner sanctuary, the deber. It wrapped around the sides and the back.
Side rooms going all the way around. What were they like?
They were on 3 levels, and interestingly, their width changed. The lowest floor rooms were 5 cubits wide, the middle floor 6 cubits, and the top floor 7 cubits.
Wider as you go up. That sounds backwards, structurally. How did that work?
Well, the text explains it. It says Solomon made rebates, or offset ledges, around the outside of the temple walls. The key phrase is, so that the supporting beams would not be inserted into the walls of the temple.
Okay, hang on. So the main temple wall itself remained untouched, sort of sacred. These ledges stuck out from the main wall.
Precisely. The beams for the floors of the side rooms rested on these external ledges, not in the main wall.
And to make the next level wider, they just built a wider ledge further out.
Seems to be the idea. It allowed this whole side structure to exist without compromising the structural integrity or perhaps the symbolic integrity of the core temple walls. It's a really specific detail.
It really is. Shows incredible planning. And how did you get into these side rooms?
The entrance to the lowest level was on the south side of the temple. And inside that side structure, there was a stairway, or maybe winding stairs, going up to the middle and third floors.
Okay, so core building, wrapped by this 3-story structure of rooms, accessed from the south side. Now, let's step inside the main temple itself. How was that space divided?
It was divided into 2 main sections. The larger front part was the main hall, the hekal. The text says this was 40 cubits long.
40 cubits.
And then at the very back, partitioned off, was the inner sanctuary, the debir, also called the most holy place.
The most holy place and its dimensions.
This was a perfect cube, 20 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 20 cubits high.
A 20 by 20 by 20 cube, taking up that last part of the 60-cubit length.
Yeah.
That shape, a cube, feels intentional. Symbolic, maybe.
Very likely. Cubes often represent perfection, stability, completeness in ancient symbolism. Especially for the most sacred space, it makes sense. It really emphasizes its unique status.
Okay, we have the layout. Now, the building process itself must have been a massive undertaking. Does the source give us a timeline?
It does. It says construction started in the 4th year of Solomon's reign, in the month of Ziv. That's the 2nd month.
And it wasn't quick, I assume.
No. It took 7 years. It was finished in the 11th year of his reign, in the month of Bul, which is the 8th month.
7 years. Wow.
And the text makes a point of saying it was finished in all its details according to all its specifications. Suggests that detailed plan was followed to the letter.
7 years of work. And the materials and methods. The source gives us amazing detail about the stone. Only blocks dressed at the quarry.
Yes, all the stonework was finished off-site. But the really striking detail, the one everyone remembers, is this. No hammer, chisel, or any iron tool was heard at the temple site while it was being built.
No iron tools on site. That's hard to imagine. So every stone, every piece of timber perfectly cut and shaped somewhere else.
Exactly, at the quarry or workshop. Then brought to the site and fitted together. Think of the logistics, the precision needed.
It suggests something beyond just efficiency, doesn't it? Like the site itself had to remain peaceful, holy, even during construction, separating the noisy work from the sacred assembly.
It really does. It changes your whole mental image of the construction site. Not a cacophony of hammering, but maybe something quieter, more deliberate.
That detail alone is incredible. What about the roof? And how are those side rooms actually attached?
The roofing was done with beams and planks of cedar, and those side rooms, as we said, their beams rested on those external ledges, also made of cedar, tied into the structure that way.
Cedar keeps coming up. Was it used a lot?
Oh, massively, especially inside. And the inner courtyard description mentions it too. 3 rows of dressed stone and then a row of trimmed cedar beams.
Stone foundations, cedar for upper parts, roofing, and the side structure supports. But the inside? That's where the descriptions get really lavish, right?
Absolutely. Once the structure was up, the interior finishing was stunning, according to the text. The inside walls, lined entirely with cedar boards, floor to ceiling.
All cedar inside, and the floor.
Not stone, it was covered with planks of pine or possibly cypress, depending on the translation.
Cedar walls, pine, or cypress floors. Was the wood left plain?
No, not at all. It was heavily carved. Inside the main hall, the cedar had carvings of gourds or colocynths and open flowers.
Boards and flat.
And then consistently on all the walls inside both the main hall and the inner sanctuary, carvings of cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers.
Cherubim. Those are the winged figures, right? Guardians?
Yes, often seen as symbolic guardians or attendants in divine spaces. So you have this recurring pattern. Cherubim, palms, flowers, everywhere inside.
What about the doors between these spaces?
Also very detailed. For the entrance to the inner sanctuary, the most holy place, the doors were made of olive wood, and they had 5-sided doorposts, or jambs.
Olive wood. And 5-sided posts, that's specific.
Very. Then for the main entrance to the temple itself, the Hek Hall, there were larger double doors made of pine or cypress, 2 folding leaves each, and their doorposts were olive wood too, but 4-sided.
So olive wood for the holiest entrance and posts, pine for the main doors, but still with olive wood frames. Were these doors carved too?
Yes, explicitly mentioned. Cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers were carved on all the doors. Same motifs as the walls.
The theme carries right through. Okay, but the element that just screams opulence, the thing that really sets this apart in the description, is the gold.
Ah, yes. The gold. It's almost overwhelming when you read it. It wasn't just decoration. The source says the entire inside of the inner sanctuary, the most holy place,
Yes.
was overlaid with pure gold.
The whole room. Walls, ceiling.
Everything. And the cedar altar inside that sanctuary, overlaid with gold. There were gold chains draped across the entrance to the sanctuary.
Wow.
But it gets even more extensive. The text then says Solomon overlaid the whole interior of the temple with pure gold.
Wait, the whole temple, not just the inner sanctuary.
That's what it says. The implication is the main hall, too. Walls,
Yeah.
ceiling, all covered in gold.
Like this.
And then maybe the most staggering detail.
Yeah.
He also covered the floors of both the inner and outer rooms with gold.
Gold floors.
Yeah.
You'd be walking on gold.
Apparently so. According to this account, it's an almost unimaginable level of extravagance. It speaks volumes about the value attributed to this space.
Absolutely. How do they apply the gold to the carvings? Did it obscure the details?
The text gives some detail there, too. For the olive wood doors of the inner sanctuary, the carvings were covered with beaten gold. For the pine doors of the main hall, the gold was hammered evenly over the carvings. So it seems the carving details were meant to still be visible beneath the gold.
Different techniques even for applying the gold. The level of detail is just constant. So let's focus back on that innermost room, the most holy place, this cube of gold. What was its primary purpose, according to the text?
It states it directly. It was prepared to set the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord there.
The Ark, the symbolic center of God's presence. And this is where those huge cherubim figures were placed.
Exactly. A pair of them made of olive wood. And they were enormous. Each one was 10 cubits high.
10 cubits, so about 15 feet tall.
Roughly, yes. And their wingspan was also 10 cubits each. Each wing was 5 cubits long. And the text notes they were identical in size and shape.
Massive figures. How are they positioned in the room?
Very specifically. They stood side by side, One cherub's outer wing touched one wall of the 20-cubit room. The other cherub's outer wing touched the opposite wall.
Hmm.
And their inner wings, the ones closer to the center of the room, stretched out and touched each other right in the middle.
So their wings met tip to tip, right above where the Ark of the Covenant would be placed.
Precisely, forming a kind of canopy or protective presence over the ark's location.
And I assume, given everything else.
Yes. These huge olive wood cherubim were also completely overlaid with gold.
So you walk into this perfect cube lined floor to ceiling in gold with a golden altar and dominated by these two colossal golden winged figures whose wings meet in the center. The description is just intense.
It really is powerful imagery.
So given all this, the precision, the unique building methods, the carvings, the sheer overwhelming amount of gold, what does the source say was the ultimate point? Why build this incredibly costly, elaborate structure?
Well, the basic reason given is that it was built for the Lord, as a house for God, essentially. But there's also a specific divine message recorded for Solomon connected to it.
A message. What did it say?
It ties the temple's existence to Solomon's and Israel's obedience. It says basically, about this temple you are building, if you follow my decrees, observe my laws, and keep all my commands and obey them, I will fulfill through you the promise I gave to David your father, and I will live among the Israelites and will not abandon my people Israel.
Ah, okay. So the building isn't just a gift, it's tied to the covenant. God's presence dwelling there is linked to their faithfulness.
Exactly. It frames the temple as the focal point of that divine-human relationship, a physical place for God's presence among them, but conditional on their actions. It's not automatic.
So pulling all these threads from 1 Kings 6 together, the measurements, the no-hammer rule, the side rooms, the carvings, the gold, the cube, the cherubim, that divine message, what's the overall picture the text paints? What does it tell us about how this building was meant to be understood?
It seems every detail contributes to this idea of creating a space that is utterly unique, set apart, overwhelmingly valuable, and intensely holy. The precision isn't just good craftsmanship, it's almost ritualistic. The quiet construction, the layering, the specific motifs, the perfect cube, the gold everywhere, it all points towards building a literal dwelling place fit, as they understood it, for God's glory to inhabit, a meeting point between heaven and earth.
So the richness wasn't just conspicuous consumption, it was meant to reflect the perceived value and glory of the one it was built for, and the importance of that relationship.
That seems to be the message conveyed by the description. The physical details are deeply symbolic of the spiritual purpose. The source isn't just giving us architectural specs, it's presenting a theological statement built in stone, cedar, and, well, a lot of gold.
It really makes you think about the intentionality behind every single choice, down to the sounds that weren't made on site.
It does, and maybe that's the thought to leave you with from this deep dive into 1 Kings 6. Consider what it really implies. To build something for the divine, not just using the best stuff you have, but doing it with such specific, perhaps symbolic methods and measurements, right down to the tools you use or deliberately don't use.
What does that level of care, that almost obsessive detail described in the text, communicate about reverence, about purpose, about the very nature of trying to create a sacred space?
It's a kind of thoughtfulness and construction that goes way beyond just putting up a building. It makes you ponder the connection between the physical act of creation and the spiritual intention behind it.